The Serving Up Discipleship podcast is to help our audience understand the sacred work of service missionaries and why service missions are spiritually transformative and fulfilling. This podcast is produced under the direction of a senior service missionary couple, social media advisors.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another podcast of the Serving Discipleship. I am Elder Lewis, your host, my co-host, Elder Price. And we have yet another special guest, Sister Trawick, with us today. And we are super excited to be here today. Sister Trawick, why don't you, for the audience and for Elder Price's benefit, introduce yourself for us real quick.
Hello, everyone. I am Sister Trawick. I am currently serving as a service missionary in the Jacksonville, Florida mission. Different mission from Elder Lewis, though.
He does.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want, Elder Lewis. Tell me what you need.
That's a pretty good introduction. I don't know.
That's pretty good.
Well done. How long have you been serving for?
Total on a mission or as a service missionary?
Total as a mission.
I finished my 9 months earlier this month, so I am almost on to my 10th month.
Hey, congratulations. That's awesome. Good
Thank you.
times. Hopefully it's been enjoyable, that's for sure.
Most of it has.
That's good.
That's very
Okay.
good.
Well, thanks for hopping on here. We appreciate you. I'm sorry it was a little interesting for the communications, but we wanted to know, and we do this for every person that we interview. We want to know your schedule for your service mission. We kind of want to know your day-to-day activities that you have, your day-to-day assignments, and how you serve. So would you be able to share that with us today?
Yeah, of course. My mission services are a lot different than most of the people in my mission. And from what I know, most of the service missionaries in Florida, and much different than Utah. I only serve 2 services for the church. One of those is being a temple worker. I live 6 hours from the temple, and so I only get to serve there 2 shifts out of the month, which is 1 weekend for me. And my other service is I work member locator, which is an online service in which I locate lost records for the church, but that still only takes up some of my time at home. Yes, Elder Lewis, I know you do that too. So those are the only services I actually perform for the church, other than what I do in my ward. But I work at a place called E.O. Wilson Biophilia. It's basically a private nature reserve, and we work with kids during the year. They come for field trips and stuff, and I work in the reptile room, so I have fun holding snakes and either scaring children or making them scream with joy. Take your pick. I also have other responsibilities at the biophilia. I do help take care of the snakes, and I do actually help with the other staff members with different responsibilities. One of the most notable being I bathed 2 armadillos the other week. I have also fed bobcats, and I have petted foxes and entertained them while their handler was cleaning their enclosure. I also work at a place called Aliquot Animal Refuge. It's basically an animal shelter. My volunteer shifts consist of playing with cats. I usually pick the kittens, just to socialize them and help them better be adoptable for people. So they're socialized and they know how to play and they know how to be with humans. Let's see. I also make thank you cards for the construction workers who are building the Tallahassee temple. Interesting thing. The construction missionaries give all the construction workers the thank you card and a cookie every week. For the Tallahassee temple, that's every Wednesday. And so they go through a lot of thank you cards. And it's something that directly affects my mission, because when Tallahassee temple is dedicated, it will be my temple over Orlando. So that's kind of more significant to me. I don't know if that's specific church service for the church, but it is something that I enjoy doing. I work at a variety of places that I don't consistently see. I work for a local food pantry. Every once in a while, 1 or 2 shifts during the month, and I pack bags for people who don't have food themselves, and someone else brings them out to them. I just pack bags. With other people, it's a lot of fun. I am also a member of the St. Andrew's Quilting Guild, and I perform service projects with the guild, mostly involving sewing. I do love sewing. I also work at the Panama City Publishing Museum. That is more recent service that I've acquired. And it's the old printing machines where you got to put each little type in and wet it with ink and push it and all of that fun stuff. I don't actually work with any of the printing machines. I'm currently cleaning all of the type cases, of which they have 190. And every type needs to be accounted for. And this goes all the way down to 12-point font, which is very, very small in person, to the big, huge letters that are probably 90-point font. And they have everything in between, different fonts, different font points, pictures, all of that fun stuff. I've been trying to work for the local high school as well, but since school is out right now, it's not something that's going to happen at the moment. But my day-to-day changes all the time, and my agency time probably looks pretty different than most service missionaries, since my form of exercise is jujitsu. So
There you go. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. That's really impressive that you're
it
able
is a
to do
lot
that.
of stuff, but I do a lot of driving too, because I live in a tourist town and nothing's near me.
That's fair. I was gonna say 6 hours to the temple. That's pretty good. That's you know, just a little bit farther than my 5-minute drive, but actually 15-minute drive. But no, just kidding. That's
Shut up.
far. That's
You
dedication.
shut up with your 5 minutes.
It was 15.
I had a 10-minute walk from my high school to the temple, so I can't say much either, Elder Lewis.
But hey, that's awesome though. Some serious blessings there. That's good. I wanted to jump back real quick. You talked about member locator, and this has been kind of a thing that's been popping up a little bit. I don't know much about it, but I know that a few of the missionaries here in St. George has been starting to kind of do some of that. What is, like, I don't know, is that new? Is it newer? That's sort of.
Not entirely sure when it was started, but I know it's mostly run by service missionaries.
Sure.
I occasionally have to reach out to the brother who runs the website because I have to get assigned to new stakes. But basically, stakes actually sign up with the church to have all of their records pulled to member locator and for service missionaries to look at. I'm not entirely sure what the stake side actually does. I've been told there was a cost, but I'm not entirely sure on that end. I know for me, I'm assigned a random stake. I even did a Jacksonville, Florida stake, which was very interesting. And I just go through and I go through each of the different categories. We have prospective elders, Relief Society, primary young men's. We mainly focus on adults because we're using a public people searcher, which pulls from bank records and houses bought and credit cards. And most people under the age of 18 don't really have those.
Right.
And so I put in their name, I put in the address that we have, and sometimes it comes up and sometimes it doesn't. It's really hard for different demographics. I noticed that those who have military indicated in their record, that it's very hard to find them because, one, addresses aren't publicly published from a military base, and I should know. I'm an Air Force brat and I live on a military base. But they also move around all the time, and if it's a bachelor, we don't even know if they attend church. They could be overseas for all we know, and they would have to be assigned to an English ward, most likely. And so we rarely find them. We rarely find a young men who have recently become part of the prospective elders. I find between the ages of 18 and 23 are really hard to find unless they've immediately gone off to college. And that's always very exciting because I'll look through and I'm like, oh, I can see your parents and your siblings, and then you're like off in a different state. You must be going to college. But it's always really fun because sometimes the public people searchers can't tell the difference between a junior and a senior and the third and all of this fun stuff. So I'm looking for a 50-year-old man and it keeps pulling up a 70-year-old man. I was like, okay, I don't know where to find you. So there's some problems, but most of the time I know that I'm actually helping people out because when the records are found and considered, they're actually sent to the new stakes, and they're, from what I was told, they're actually given to the proselyting missionaries in the new stake, and they're asked to go find them, see if they're there.
That's pretty cool.
Quite a few people have been helped that way. There's a lot of stories that I've heard that really are interesting about that.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never even known about this. That's really cool. That's definitely new. Well, new to me at least. I guess it's not been that new, but that's cool. That's really cool. You're able to be a part of that. Definitely interesting though. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
All right. So now the next question that we have for you is, what has been your favorite part about being a service missionary?
Hmm. Well, that's a hard question. Why do you have to ask hard questions?
Because it's fun.
You enjoy pain. Um, my favorite part as a service missionary. In the services that I do, getting to work in the reptile room and interact with kids that are 4th graders and 7th graders are pretty fun. And I just get to hold snakes for no excuse. I just do. So in terms of fun, that is actually really fun. But what's really special is that I get to interact with all of these people in the community that I would never have interacted with before. I didn't even live in Florida before I started my service mission. And so I occasionally get to go out with the proselyting missionaries. And so there are sometimes when I go participate in service projects and there's just people, especially at the food pantry, where you can tell this one act of service that to me is just another Wednesday morning changes their whole life, or at least their day. And some people are very open about it, crying, saying, thank you for doing your time, for doing this, which highly embarrasses me. I prefer my service to be unnoticed, that at least that I did it. But other times, I can see it in the faces of the people that I serve that, to me, is no big deal to help to this one person because this task was so overwhelming. And it's not even like just the people that I'm directly serving. Sometimes it's the staff that I work with at these places that bathing the armadillos. That's a fairly overwhelming project for this particular woman. They're her armadillos that she's had since they were kids, but one of them's kind of insane, and to put 2 of these armadillos in separate buckets and expect them to stay there is high expectations. And so just my simple task of making sure the armadillos stayed in the bucket instead of running rampant everywhere, sopping wet, was a huge service to her. And to me, I was just like, okay, whatever, this is just my life. And so it's really made me consider and think about that the smallest acts of service that I do can be a huge deal to someone else. And I would never know about it. And I think that's something that a lot of people have a hard time realizing, that it's not, people don't think what they do matters. And even the smallest act of service of telling someone, here, I'll come help you, can change their whole day and so much more.
I love that. I really like that, because we just had a talk even yesterday at church about complacency and kind of going through the motions, going through the flow, right? And just kind of doing what you're told to do and not really thinking much of it. But there was a story shared when some, I don't know who it was, but it was a guy who was going to church, and he would just go to church, go through the motions, right? He wasn't really getting much out of it. But then one day it hit him, and he saw somebody sitting alone. And so he decided he wanted to go talk to this guy and just welcome him and say hi. And from that day on, he's made it a goal to go and sit next to these guys who are alone, or meet with people that need a friend or something. And it's changed church for him completely. It's made him more, involved and more engaged. And from that, he's learned so much more. And so I like what you said, that sometimes we don't know what we really do. And a lot of the assignments can be that way, right? We don't see the exact impact or the immediate impact of what we do, but there is a big impact there. And I think that's a very important point to be made. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's huge. That's a big part of this. So our next question for you, though, real quick, is how has the strength of Christ help you to be of service to others?
More hard question.
I know. I'm like, this is another hard one. Good luck. I don't want to answer it. No, I'm just kidding. You got this.
Well, so as I said earlier, I wasn't called to be a service missionary originally. I was originally called to be a proselyting missionary in the Las Vegas West Mission. And so I won't go through the whole story of how I actually got my paper submitted, which is a huge and long, complicated process that I could have quit at any moment because it was too hard. But I got set apart as a proselyting missionary, and I went to the MTC like everyone else does, and I was English speaking, so only 2 weeks. And I made it through the MTC, but the MTC was really hard for me. Not because teaching or talking is hard, but because I have significant health issues. I'm allergic to temperature change. It's an autoimmune disorder. I break out in hives, which is considered a major allergic reaction, which if it happens to anything else, you should be going to the hospital. But this happens to me on a daily basis, an hourly basis. And I have medication right now that suppresses the allergic reaction, but it's still happening. My body's still reacting to this. And when I was in the MTC in October of last year, it was the first snowstorm of the season in Provo. And I knew that my medication would wear off halfway through the week and that I would have to wait till I got to Las Vegas to receive it because it is a shot, an injection. And everything about being the MTC was hard for me. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know how to know anyone. I went to class. I had a companion who was 5 years older than me, and I couldn't eat anything in the cafeteria. I don't have major food allergies, but a lot of food makes me sick for no reason. And so the only thing I could eat was the Hawaiian food, and that's only served 5 days out of the week. So for Saturday and Sunday, I literally starved. And I was having a major allergic reaction, and I almost passed out during our exercise time one day. But I didn't complain. I just kept moving on. And I found the only thing that I could do was small acts of service, ironically. And I wrote sticky notes for every person in my district during class. And so I left the MTC finally, and I made it to Las Vegas where things got worse. I ended up having to I got my shot the first night I got there, and being drugged for almost 24 hours is a lovely experience. But it was only a couple weeks before I had to go to the urgent care, and that I was recommended to a dermatologist to diagnose me with another chronic disorder. And that literally made me cry in the parking lot that day. To have the burden of something else I had to deal with. And so basically my body creates cysts all over my body for no apparent reason. And so that changes my entire lifestyle. There's foods I'm supposed to avoid. There's things I'm supposed to do. Getting sweaty and dirty makes it worse. And anyone who knows me knows that I literally don't care. Again, my form of exercise is jiu-jitsu. I roll around on dirty mats with sweaty men for fun because it's exercise for me. And so I couldn't exercise very much in Las Vegas because I was having major allergic reactions and this. And anyone knows anything knows that just crashes your mental health. And it got to the point that I couldn't go out very well. I was having a hard time doing anything. And finally, my companion, who was my Christ for a while, my trainer, she told me that I should consider a service mission for various reasons, but most of all, she felt that I was suffering in Las Vegas and that I always looked so happy when I was doing service. And so we went through the process. And 3 weeks later, I was transferred to a service mission in Florida where my parents live. But even all through that process, it was every night praying, crying, is this what you want me to do? Because if Christ asked me to, I would gladly have stayed and suffered in Vegas for all of 18 months. But as we know, Christ does not ask us to suffer needlessly. And so my purpose in Las Vegas had been fulfilled, and I know that. And now I'm on to my purpose in Florida, which I don't know. I was told what my purpose was in Vegas, and I don't know what I'm doing in Florida, but I'm a service missionary because that is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so the strength in my life is that I have gotten all the way from starting my papers and not wanting to serve a mission, all the way to here, and every day it's get up, this is the Lord's service. Because I am here because of him. And I will never stop loving him because he's never given up on me, even when anyone else could have and many people did. So I am here because of Christ's strength. And there's no way I could have been here without Christ.
Incredible. Yeah. Christ is
I
everything.
think she also answered another question of ours
I
with
think
that
so.
price.
Which is awesome. You're doing great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. That's it's a very tender and sacred thing that you just shared with us, and
Of course.
really appreciate that. Elder Price, I think it's that time. Do you think it's that time?
I think it's that time.
I think it's that time. So, Sister Trawick, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we have this thing that we call the question of the week. It's a little like segment that we like to do, and so we do a different question every week. Usually, frequently asked questions that we get as service missionaries from other members of the church and or other not other missionaries, well, other missionaries, teaching missionaries. Words are not working properly right now. So, from other missionaries that are just proselyting missionaries. And so the question that we chose for this week was, do service missionaries go to zone conferences with the teaching missionaries or have zone conferences in general?
And all three of us will kind of answer this, but we kind of wanted
Yes.
to get the take of just however, any of us. So if you don't want to go first, we can kind of tackle it, or we just want to break it down and kind of answer this.
Well, I can give you my answer, which isn't very long. The answer is, as service missionaries, at least in our mission, we do not hold zone conferences. My entire mission is made up of 3 missionaries. And we only have one elder who's newly ordained, so he's our district leader. I have been to Zone Conference, which is actually a mission tour for the Jacksonville mission. But I haven't actually been to a real Zone Conference, even as a proselyting missionary. So I'm probably very unhelpful beyond that.
Interesting. So, and maybe this is just for me, but I like to know how it's different from my area to your guys' area, because we are kind of in an interesting spot. We kind of do zone conferences as we've had our own like service mission zone conferences where we've combined with St. George and like Richfield and Cedar, if you guys know Utah or I don't know. But anyways, we combined, we can connect. We had like a Christmas party or whatever you want to call it with all the service missionaries from those areas. And so that was a zone conference, and we had some nice messages and things like that. But we only do those about once every quarter. And for a zone conference type of thing, it's actually really more of like once a year. We split a couple of quarters though, and we do, a zone conference a quarter, and then the next we do more of like an activity or like a fireside. So we've had a Book of Mormon fireside, and we've invited the whole zone to come. And so that's how mine works, which is sounds a little different from down there. Elder Lewis, how is yours? Because I know you two are like close, but not in the same mission, right?
Yeah, so she's in the
We're in the same
Panhandle.
proselyting mission, different service missions.
Yeah, same proselyting mission, different. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
But if we were to do a zone conference in that sense, Other Price, it would have to be all of Florida, because there's all of like 20 missionaries, service missionaries in Florida, maybe 30.
No, because we're missing one of the missions. So we had a Sunday Zoom conference with 3 or 4 of the missions in Florida. We have both Jacksonville missions, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale, but Tampa doesn't join us.
Well, that's rude.
So 20 out of everyone who comes to our Zoom meeting on a normal basis, and almost 20 service missionaries that serve the Orlando Temple.
So what I'm getting is Tampa, if you're watching this, you need to join them on your Sunday Zoom calls.
We need their service mission leaders for that.
But the proselyting mission has zone conferences once every 6 weeks or so.
Right.
And so I usually go and join those. And so, I enjoy going to those, and it's, I don't know.
Are yours closer than a 2-hour drive?
Usually it's like a 30-minute drive for me.
I have to drive all the way to Tallahassee. It's like 2 freaking hours, and I can't even go. Also, zone conferences for this transfer are not real zone conferences. We're having a mission tour, so congratulations.
They usually do both, but it's, so, fun times.
I was also going to mention with integration happening now too, and maybe you guys will start having some of this integrate over there as well.
January.
You guys are getting there. January for you guys. Okay, so we've kind of started. So zone conferences that happen for the St. George, Utah mission, the proselyting mission, we're now involved in that. And so all the service missionaries will now attend those as well.
Right. And that's where.
Right. So we'll be attending and different things. And like we said, there's so many changes going on. Like the things we say this week, we'll have to update on episode, I don't know, 15 or something, or 20, because we're going to have to correct everything we said.
Elder Price.
What?
I got a question for you.
What's up?
When you go to zone conference, do you have to have a companion?
No, not.
Because here I am required to have a companion if I go to zone conference.
Really?
I have to trio with the proselyting sisters. I don't know what's up with you, Elder Lewis. Mission president loves you or something.
Weird. Okay.
Or he hates me. I have different restrictions than Elder Lewis does, and I don't know why.
Apparently, that's weird. Anyways,
Yeah.
So we are running a little low on time, and Sister Trawick was so awesome. She answered 2 questions in one.
Yeah.
So we
You're
can kind
welcome.
of skip the other one that we had. But we really just wanted to see if you'd be willing to share your testimony about service missions with us.
Of course. I'm just going to say that I did not know very much about service missions or service missionaries before I actually started my service mission. And comparative to what I know in Florida is probably not very generic of anything that happens anywhere else, especially Utah. But I do know this. Service missionaries are awesome. And service missionaries can do great things. And sometimes greater things than what the proselyting missionaries are allowed to. And that's dependent on the situation and the will of God and how things work out. But service missionaries are just as capable of doing the Lord's work as proselyting missionaries. If we serve in the temple, we're doing missionary work on the other side of the veil. If as a patron and as a temple worker, we're helping officiate all of those ordinances. And that is significant for those people on the other side of the veil. The temples would not run without temple workers. And so service missions are an awesome program, and I'm glad that we have them, because for me, I would have been sent home for my mission a transfer and a half, 3 months into my mission, never being able to complete it because of significant health issues. And now I get to serve here, and I still get to complete a full-time mission to the Lord. And I have 2 missions, and that's okay. And you know what? Every service mission is different, and I think that's wonderful. Because Elder Lewis and Elder Price, you both have very different service opportunities than I do. Elder Lewis gets to serve in the temple all the time. I don't know what you get to do, Elder Price, but I suspect you work in TI and Bishop Storehouse and the temple and the Institute, and I get to play with reptiles, and that works for me because I know I've got the rest of my life to serve in the church, but I'll only get one time in my life to serve at these places here in Panama City Beach, because I will probably never live here after this. And you know what? That's okay. I get to spend these 15 months as a service missionary, and I get to know all these other service missionaries. And it's amazing. And I get to know that I still got to complete a mission to the Lord, because I knew that it was something I'm supposed to do. And that I don't get to be held back by significant health issues and all of the things that can go wrong, because this was the Lord's will, and the Lord wants me here, and there is a reason. And if I never know, that's okay, as long as I fulfill His purpose. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for hopping on again. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate you sharing your experience as a missionary, and we really appreciate all the work you're doing, and it's important work. So thank you again.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we are running out of time, which is sad for me and Elder Price. We love doing this podcast so much. But it is time for us to sign off. So until next time, keep serving up some discipleship.
Boom.
Thank you for taking the time to see or hear this podcast. Your hosts were Elder Lewis and Elder Price. Your editor is me, Elder Gibby. If you want to see clips from the show or other service mission related content, please look for the Hands of the Lord Facebook page. Thanks again for thinking of us, and we'll see you next time.